What is up, guys? This is Yixer at Magna Crypto and welcome to another video. So today's video is going to be answering probably the most common question, the number one question that I get asked, and probably a lot of other investors get asked as well, and that is, how much should I invest? And I'm going to go into a bit of detail in terms of how someone's lifestyle or personal situation can influence how much they should invest. So stay tuned and let's get into it. So when someone asks me this question of how much to invest, the first question I always respond with, and this is probably the biggest factor that affects how much one can invest, and that is, what is your living situation like? And then also, as a branch from that, have you got any dependables and things of that nature? But the main one is your living situation. Now, if you're living in these two main situations, you're either living at home or you're renting or paying for a mortgage. And that dictates how much you can invest. So if you're living at home, obviously you have a lot more leeway in terms of how much risk you can take, and also just you have more money available. But mainly it's the risk factor that influences your whole decision making, because if you're living at home and you decide to just spend your entire salary on investing in crypto, then the worst thing that can happen is you probably won't be going out that month. As opposed to if you're renting or paying for a mortgage, then if you decide to do that, then you'll probably be out on the street eating garbage.
Sorry, do you speak English?
So it's the two situations allow for very different decision making also, and risk tolerance. So if we go down the route of pay for rent or mortgage, then obviously your risk tolerance you have to be more of a conservative investor, and so the amount you can invest will be a lot less, because obviously you have to make sure that your essentials are paid for, your bills, your rent, your food, etc. If you have dependables, then again you got to make sure they're taken care of, etc. But what you have to do more in that case, and to be honest, in both cases, is you got to sacrifice a little bit more. So you have to try to cut down on some luxuries if there are any, like maybe eating out regularly, or maybe certain types of foods you can cut down from, and with those cuts you can spend a bit more on investing. But it definitely dictates you have to be more of a conservative investor, and so how much you can afford to invest will be a lot less, and you got to make sure to cover your essentials, and then with whatever you have left you can invest from that, and even cut down on things luxuries essentially. Whereas if you're living at home, then obviously you don't have that big responsibility or big chunk of money coming out of your pocket, which is the rent and the bills included. But however, even if you're living at home, there's still even more cuts you can make. Like I said, if you're living at home and maybe you're going out a lot or you're eating out a lot, you can cut those things down and invest even more into crypto. Now, those are the most important factors that dictate how much you can invest and how much you can afford to invest. What I would add to that as well is there is a very common saying in crypto in terms of answering this video's question, is only invest in what you can afford, which is absolutely correct. And we've covered that already. So if you're living out and you're renting or paying for a mortgage, then obviously you can't afford to invest your rent money. Even if you think, oh, this is the month, you should never invest your rent money. However, you can cut leisure activities, you can cut certain luxuries that you don't actually need in order for you to invest more money. So what I'd add to that is invest what you can afford without being in any trouble, but also try to make some sacrifices even for a few months, you know, I don't know if you've heard of Gary Vaynerchuk, but he always says, he basically said he ate shit for like 10 years, invested, saved a ton of money and then invested in these tech companies like Snapchat and Twitter, and that's how he got his millions. So, you know, if he did that for 10 years, I'm sure we can do it for a few months or hopefully up to like a year or something like that. Because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and something like this is not going to come around again for a long time, if it does at all. And what I'm going to put on the screen to help illustrate that point is how much $100, $500, $1,000 and $5,000 would have returned you if you had held it previously for like a couple of years. Just to drive that point home in terms of this is an absolute once in a lifetime opportunity, and this is potentially how much money you could make from it. But again, this is absolutely not financial advice. You're responsible for your money and no one else. So to kind of wrap this up together, or mesh it all together and give some practical points. Number one, you need to factor in your living situation. If you're living at home, you have a much bigger opportunity to take risk without getting yourself in trouble, because rent and bills are out the way. But you can still make sacrifices. You can still cut out going out or going to dinner or doing things which are unnecessary and you can do another time. So you can still make sacrifices, and this is not financial advice, but you know, chuck the kitchen sink at this market and eat shit for a little while. Now the other side, if you're paying for rent or paying for a mortgage and you have dependables, kids, elders, pets, you know, whatever it may be, then you obviously need to make sure to take care of that. No matter what, you need to make sure that you have an emergency fund in case of unpredictable things coming up. So obviously you need to be a lot more conservative and more safe, but you can still make some cuts. I'm sure maybe a couple dinners you can cut out, or in terms of going out for dinner, you can cut out, or maybe you can eat less expensive food. There's ways you can cut some things out so you can have more spare cash available to invest in that. But same kind of message, try to eat shit for a little while, for a few months. The next bull run is said to be in around May, June of next year. The reason people are saying this is because that big event, and I've got a video talking about this event, the Bitcoin halving, is in May, June 2020, and all previous bull runs, which is when price goes to the moon, have centered around this point. So it gives you a pretty good indicator as to the time scale you have, how much time you have to invest. Now you want to be locked into the market well before that time, so you've got quite a few paychecks from now until then to invest. There's no guarantees with investing, but this is a pretty good opportunity. So if it goes well, then you're going to be very happy 12 months from now. If it doesn't, you move on to the next one. There's more opportunities, not like this, but there's more opportunities. There's no such thing as you can live the same way as you normally do and not make any sacrifices and expect to get a big payout as well. It just doesn't work that way.